Portland, 1270 AM and 1017 FM.
All right, welcome to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm the American Haunt Historian, Alan Searcy. We are rocking and rolling here at the historic Richland Building in Portland, Tennessee. My pal Lonesome Lee Bogan's on hiatus. Instead, we got Roger the Wraith behind the board. Got a special guest tonight, Miss Sue Burgess. She is the director of Trousdale Place. So before we jump on in, a lot of stuff's going on, a lot of moving parts. It is now October, ladies and gentlemen. Been waiting for this all year. Yeah, the Ghost of Gallatin Haunted Tour is in full swing. I got appearances coming up. I'll be at Squarefest on the 4th. I'll be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Goatman Festival on the 11th. On the 12th, I will be in Lexington, Kentucky for Scarefest all weekend. Then come back for Franklin, Tennessee. Not Franklin, Kentucky, but Franklin, Tennessee's Pumpkin Fest. So a lot of stuff's going on. Really excited. Got new books. Had one just dropped called Hexed about a voodoo doctor in Knoxville. It's crazy. I'll probably go more into that next week, but I want to jump in here to my guest. So Miss Sue Burgess is the director of Trousdale Place, and I want to say how we met. So my Ghost of Gallatin book, when I wrote the first book, I didn't include Trousdale Place because the lady who oversaw the house, I believe she came to town once or twice a year. I never could catch her, so I didn't write about it. So one day I'm at home and my phone chimes. I missed the phone call. I pick up the phone and look at it. And you have like the text message or the voicemail transcription. The transcription said, "Hello, this is Super Jess." I'm like, "Super Jess? Wow." So, but yeah, I called her back, and it wasn't Super Jess. It was Sue Burgess, the director of Trousdale Place. So, Sue, thank you for joining us. It's good to see you. I'm glad to have you in studio today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And I remember that, too. I was reflecting earlier this afternoon on the drive over from Gallatin. I'm thinking, when did Alan and I first meet? And then I remembered that, and he'll have to forgive me for my Tidewater, Virginia accent. It's a little bit different than what you hear here in Tennessee, but it's been a friendship ever since, and Alan is a great friend of Trousdale Place. In fact, I was at Trousdale Place earlier today. We're going to be open for the festival in downtown Gallatin on Saturday. We'll be there from 10 until 2, but I was putting away some clothing, rearranging some clothing upstairs that happened to be the governor's tuxedo and top hat and his wife's evening gown and cape that she wore when they went to not to Gallatin, but went to Nashville when he found out he'd been become the governor of Tennessee, the 13th governor. And the cabinet that we keep those clothes in was locked. The skeleton keys that I had brought over to the house with me, none of them worked. And I thought, okay, one of them unlocked this cabinet to get those clothes out of there. One of them's got to unlock the cabinet to get them back in there. Nothing worked. For 30 minutes, myself and another volunteer looked around, couldn't find the right skeleton key for that cabinet, decided we would pick up the clothing and put it in another cabinet, and the skeleton key for the cabinet that the clothes went in was in the pocket of the governor's tuxedo. I can't tell you how it got there. I don't know why it was there, but things like that happen at Trousdale Place every now and then. So the governor must have known that I was coming to see Alan tonight because he's one of the first family members that Alan and I ran into at Trousdale Place quite some time ago when you brought two ladies there.
Yeah, well, let's back up a little bit. So let the folks kind of know what we're talking about. So Trousdale Place, it was originally built in 1813 for an attorney and Tennessee Congressman, Mr. John Bowen.
Right.
He built the house there, and it wasn't built like all at once. I think it was in stages, right?
Probably.
So after he passed away in 1822, it was acquired by William P. Rolls, the superintendent of the Gallatin Female Academy. Well, 14 years later, 1836, William Trousdale, the future governor of Tennessee, acquired the house. Now, I guess this is your area of expertise. I'll let you explain who Mr. Trousdale was.
Okay. William Trousdale is the son of Captain James Trousdale. Captain James Trousdale is a patriot of the American Revolution. He is from North Carolina. They are from North Carolina, rather. They're Scotch-Irish. And after the revolution was over, our militia, or our government, if you will, couldn't pay everybody that fought in the war with money, so they paid him in land. Well, Captain Trousdale received a land grant for an area in North Carolina where he was living at the time, where he called home. And he thought that area in North Carolina was getting too crowded, and so he packed up his family, sold that land grant, purchased another land grant, and came across into what we now know as Sumner County, Tennessee. At the time he did that, this area was still part of the state of North Carolina, and it was called Davidson County. But he came, he brought several children, one of which is William Trousdale. So William Trousdale came here as a child. He is a lawyer by trade, and he, of course, lived on the family homestead, if you will, which, if you're familiar with Dobbins Pike, it would have been out in the area of Dobbins Pike. So William grows up, he goes to school, he becomes a lawyer, he decides to get married, he marries Mary Ann Bugg, and then that's the Bugg family from right here in the Gallatin area. And he's living on the homestead, multiple generations lived on farm homesteads then, and he decides in 1836 that he has a wife and 2 young daughters, and it's time for him to purchase a home of his own. So he purchases the house at what is now 183 West Main Street in downtown Gallatin. It's a Adams-style 2-story federal brick house, 2 rooms down, 2 rooms up, and they're connected by a central hallway. But that becomes his family home. So I mentioned that he has, of course, he has his wife and he has 2 small daughters. So there's 2 bedrooms upstairs. Interestingly enough, moving with him to that land was a sister of his, a spinster sister, and 2 bachelor brother-in-laws. So his sister could stay in the nursery with his children. The bachelor brother-in-laws, that was another story. So after moving in, he immediately needed to figure out how to have extra living space. So he added a wing, which they called the boys' room, and it is connected to the main house with an arched breezeway, which would have been like an extra living space.
So spinstress, that's a term we don't hear very often. Explain what a spinstress is.
Spinster is a lady that used to be at marriageable age, did not get married, and was considered to be too old to be married. And
back then, that's not a good thing to be.
No, that's not a good thing to be. But I'm sure she helped take care of his daughters. William and his wife had 7 children, 5 of which lived to adulthood, and he did have 2 sons. So the 2 sons would have stayed with their bachelor uncles in the boys' room.
So
what we call the West Wing.
But I wanted to back up a minute. So in 1801, 40 acres of the land grant that William Trousdale, the father of the governor, acquired for his service, it was set aside for the founding of Gallatin, Tennessee.
That's correct. His dad decided to, well, there was some conversation going on. Where do you put the county seat for the new county of Sumner County? Do you put it at Cairo? Or do you put it somewhere else? And James Trousdale sold some acreage to the new county to form downtown Gallatin. So if you are standing on the square in downtown Gallatin this weekend, you're standing on land that was given to a patriot of the American Revolution.
And from what I understand, the very first, when they chopped up the land to build the square, to build Gallatin, the 40 acres, when they made the square there, one of the first plots that was sold was bought by Andrew Jackson. He was friendly with, I think, the governor, because the governor, I guess he had to have known William Trousdale, right?
He would have known a young William Trousdale. It was, if I know my history correctly, Andrew Jackson's nephew loaned a carriage and a team of horses to William Trousdale to get to Nashville, to be sworn in as the governor of Tennessee.
See, I thought William was a little bit older than Andrew Jackson, but I guess I'm wrong on that.
And William was younger.
Because Jackson served in the Revolution. He was like 12, 13 years old. He was just a kid. And I thought William was older, but I guess I got my numbers.
See, William never served. William's father did.
Okay, yeah, James. I'm sorry. So James, he was older than Andrew Jackson, correct?
Probably.
Okay,
I'd have to go back and look at the birth dates. But James Trousdale, like a lot of men of his generation, had a large family. His first wife passed probably in childbirth, and he married again. So it was his second wife and children that came here with him, to this area. But
yeah.
William would have been a child.
In Jackson, he made a lot of money prospecting with land. Like those towns he set up, he'd buy a parcel and sit on it for a year or two and then sell it for 10 times what he paid for it. Once the community kind of grew up, there's a lot of money in prospecting. General Winchester out at Craigfont, and I'm sure the Trousdales probably did a little dabbling in that too. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but
I'm not sure William was that involved. William never got involved with raising thoroughbred horses or anything of that nature. William, I look at more as he was an attorney. He was a veteran. He was a veteran of 4 wars. And that's where he earned his nickname, the War Horse of Sumner County.
Under Jackson.
Well, he would have served, and he would have served in the War of 1812, 2 Indian Wars, and the Mexican War. So, he did serve at Churubusco and Chapultepec.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't know there at the end of the square, there's a historic mansion that was once home to the governor of Tennessee. It's a hidden gem, and it's one of the most haunted places in Sumner County, if not all of Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, when you say it's haunted, it's what.
Nothing malevolent.
Nothing malevolent. I see it as family energy. They were a very close knit family. William Trousdale was our ambassador to Brazil under President Franklin Pierce. During the war between the states, he was called the elder statesman. So even though he sent both of his sons to the Confederacy, he had a very good friend, Colonel Bailey Peyton, who, was a Unionist, but the fact that they had differences of opinion did not ruin their friendship. But I see him more of doing those type things as and not in buying and selling things. He did not really have as much as some of the other families that he would have known.
So the Baskerville house, kind of catty corner behind Trousdale Place, is built for his son, and there used to be a mansion across the street where the Dairy Queen is on the Gallatin Square for his daughter. Is that correct? That was
where Best Donuts is. That was where the house for his youngest daughter, Frances Elizabeth Trousdale Peyton, was built, and she is the one that married Bailey Peyton's son, John Bell. Okay. So he had, daughter across the street, son catty-cornered, behind the back of his property.
And the Baskerville house, that's a story that I'd love to get into, but it's not really right for the radio.
No, and and the name of the house goes by the name Maywood now.
Okay.
It is. It's been restored to its like it would have been when Charles Trousdale lived there, and it's great to see houses that are taken care of and from that era and from other eras and are restored and just taken care of.
Yeah. Well, let's take us a break, and then when we come back, we'll dive into the ghost stories at Trousdale Place. What do you think?
I think so.
All right.
Where your friends are, WQKR.
Mowing season is in full swing. What better place to purchase a Cub Cadet mower than D.T. McCall at 1220 Scottsville Road in Lafayette, Tennessee? Choose from a 42-inch fab deck at $4,299 or a 50-inch fab deck at $4,999. Hurry in while supplies last. Need some new appliances? We have them too. Hot Point washer and dryer at $499.99 each. Sharp refrigerator, range, microwave, and dishwasher package for only $3,799.96 after a $200 mail-in rebate. Lazy Boy recliner, only $679. Choose a softline sofa made in Italy to go with that recliner for $1,899, or select a Franklin Chase Lounge sectional for $2,549. D.T. McCall & Sons, serving Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. 0% interest for 12 months through Mariner. Free delivery and recycling within 125 miles of Carthage, Tennessee. Your one-stop neighborhood superstore. Hey!
Do you like music by singer-songwriters? How about bluegrass, folk, blues, classic country, early rock and roll, and even classic R&B? Then I invite you to tune into Americana Country, Sundays 1 till 4 p.m. My name is Jay Preston. I'm your host every Sunday. We play a great mix of Americana and roots music from artists like John Prine, Sam Bush, Del McCurry, Delbert McClinton, Bonnie Raitt, James Taylor, Steve Earle, Joni Mitchell, and many, many more. Join me, Jay Preston, Sunday afternoons for Americana Country right here on WQKR.
Do you have friends looking for a new apartment, or a family planning a move to Middle Tennessee? Help them find their new home at Sage North, a new luxury apartment community in White House, and you'll receive a $250 Visa gift card on us. Sage North is an all-new resort-style apartment community just 30 minutes north of Nashville in the charming town of White House, near exit 108 of I-65. Small town charm, but convenient to big city shopping, entertainment, and much more. So, if you know someone looking for that perfect apartment home, encourage them to schedule their tour today and remind them when they go, mention your name when they sign their lease, and that $250 Visa gift card will be headed your way. Everybody wins. They get that beautiful new apartment home, and you get your free Visa gift card. Find out more online by visiting livesagenorth.com or visiting in person at Sage North in beautiful and charming White House, just minutes from exit 108 of I-65 in White House.
WQKR plays the music you grew up with.
Hi, this is Paul McCartney.
Hi, this is David Bowie.
Hello, I'm Stevie Nicks.
Hi, this is Keith Richards.
Hi, this is Madonna.
Reminds me of the stuff I grew up listening to.
It's the old school stuff that I like. It's reminiscent. It's the stuff that you grew up with.
Great rock and roll and pop hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's fun to listen to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
WQKR.
Okay, we're back with Southern Ghost Stories. Sorry, we had a little hiccup there in the studio. Not like last week where I dropped my phone mid-show. But anyway, we were with Miss Sue Burgess, Super Jess, the director of Trousdale Place. And I wanted to ask you, Sue, how did you get involved with Trousdale Place? And when did you come to realize, hey, there's something kind of going on here? And further to that point, were you a believer in the other side and the supernatural paranormal?
All right. Let me start with whether or not I'm a believer. I do know there are things that can't be explained. I've experienced things different times that would lead me to believe that the veil, if you will, is thin between the here and the thereafter. But I do think that there are things that we can't explain yet. We might be able to explain them one day, but not yet today. But I got involved with Trousdale Place not long after we moved here in 2017. Wanted to be involved with the Daughters of the American Revolution and, hang out at historic house. History was not my career. Banking was my career, but I enjoy history. I like American history. And I started volunteering at Trousdale Place. And I would hear, stories from other people that had volunteered there that say, stuff goes on here that we can't explain. Like, I've been here when there's nobody here but me and we're waiting for people to come in for a tour, and I'm downstairs, but there's footsteps upstairs. And I'd be hearing things like that. And then I'd hear somebody else say, oh, the cameras pick up orbs at night. So if you have the duty of monitoring the cameras, don't put your cell phone, where you're going to get an alert in the middle of the night because the cameras are rolling, because there's orb activity, and the orbs like to set the cameras off. I did learn early on, because I do have the app on my phone for the cameras, that orb activity is very different, but every once in a while, the spiders that like to live in that house decide to make those cameras roll too. But if you go to our Facebook page and look at the things that have been posted, we do have some video of orb activity that you can look at. I can't explain it to you. I just can't. My husband has tried to debunk it. Those orbs move north-south in front of those cameras.
It's like I've seen them. Like you've sent me the orbs, and they kind of go in one certain, like Mary's room. They go from right to left,
right,
and like not just once, but like several times,
right, or up to down, or
yeah. And then the governor's room, it goes from left to right. But downstairs, you sent me something in the parlor where, like in the middle of the night, it starts raining orbs. Like dozens of orbs just fall from the sky, and then one is like the Nike swoosh.
Yeah, the two little ones that come down the stairs and do the Nike swoosh and go into the dining room and go under the dining room table and then go up in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Somebody's going to have to tell me. My husband's tried to debunk it. He says, "Oh, there's the way the light is coming in those windows." He's tried to recreate it. We've tried to recreate it.
I can just see Neil running down the stairs with a sheet over himself.
He hasn't done that yet. He better not do that. But the last time we had a private paranormal investigation there, in one window in the parlor, it is the easternmost window, there are three little green dots that show up. And when they're filming and they're not there, they show up and they're not there. So the team that's there tries to debunk those, and they go outside and they go into the front yard, and they look around. Okay, is that something from the Presbyterian Church? What is reflecting? Where is these little green things coming from? So I have a picture of that, where they recorded that, and they've circled those three green things, but so far no one has been able to recreate it, and they can't determine what it is.
So let's back up. So when did you mentioned the cameras and monitoring that stuff? What's the first thing you saw that made you think, whoa, hang on, what's going on here?
Well, we had the wallpaper repaired in it's an old house, so we had the wallpaper repaired, and in the front hallway there was a picture of Julius Trousdale hanging on a certain place on the wall. And we had come in that afternoon because we were getting ready, those of us that were volunteers, to open up to start tours. So we come in the back door, lock the back door. We're locked in there. Doors aren't open. We're the only ones in there. We're turning the lights on. So we go in there and we're looking at where the wallpaper is repaired, and the wallpaper was repaired near Julius's picture. And we go upstairs, all of us, upstairs to turn on the lights upstairs. And we come back downstairs, and Julius's picture has changed positions on the wall and is hung on a different nail. I was there. We were all upstairs. We were locked in the house. So you tell me.
Yeah, and I've been a part of several events there. I don't do as much ghost hunting as I used to, but I remember there was one night, I won't say the team, but there's a younger gentleman who, I guess he's not as experienced as the others, and he was out there just talking and trying to stir things up, and he was getting nothing. We were in the
wing?
No, the added on. What's the word you use? The
West Wing. Annex.
Annex. Yeah, sorry, the annex. So we were in the annex. We're just getting nothing, just crickets. So I started talking about Eliezer Payne, the provost marshal, the general who occupied the town, who was hanging soldiers behind the courthouse. And everything just comes alive. So it's got to be something, from the Civil War era, I'm guessing.
If you stop and think about it, it was a family home until 1900. So before 1900, Colonel Payne used William Trousdale's house to hold meetings or hold court-martials, and the Trousdales had to live upstairs. And at one time, there were several young ladies that were accused of giving aid to the Confederates that were moving in and out of the town and creating havoc for the Union soldiers, and they had to be detained upstairs. But so we know soldiers were in the house, so we know Union soldiers were in the house. After 1900, the house was several other different things. It was a community center. It was a USO, if you will, during the Tennessee maneuvers, in World War II. It's been a community library. It's, after the war between the states, the Donaldson Bivouac, which is a group of Confederate veterans, used to hold their meetings there. The house was owned at one time by the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They had held their meetings there. So the house has had a lot of activity. The house has had a lot of people in and out.
Well, like you said, before 1900, if you got sick, you didn't go to the doctor. The doctor came to you. And most times you died in your house, your family's house. So
right.
There's probably been, 10, 12, maybe more folks that probably died in that house,
Right. Well, the story that people ask about the most is the story of Mary Trousdale. And there are two paranormal investigative teams that believe that Mary is still there, and Alan texted me pictures one night after a tour of a light coming on and off in one of the bedroom windows that would have been where Mary was. And the lamp that's there is electrified. However, there is no place to plug it in.
So when I do tours, I tell folks, hey, Mary's room it's the east bedroom, second floor. That's where you're going to take your pictures. I encourage everybody to take pictures and videos on the tour. And so everybody takes a picture. So I think it was in April, 3 or 4 years ago. Let's take pictures up there. A guy took a picture, and the light is on in Mary's room. So I walk up to the stairs. I start talking about the Trousdale Place and the family, Mary's ghost. And as I'm talking, the light in her bedroom goes off. So I sent Sue the picture. Hey, I want you to know I'm doing my tour, and this light just turned off as I was talking. It's kind of weird. And she's like, well, honey, that light's not even plugged in. So, yeah, I've got a picture. I think it's in my Ghost of Gallatin 2 book where the cord is laying in the floor. There's no outlet.
There's absolutely no outlet, no electrical outlet anywhere that light could have been plugged into. But let me tell you, Mary was the only surviving daughter of the last Trousdale to live in that house. Julius Trousdale, the youngest son of William, inherited the house from his dad, and so he and his wife lived there. Their daughter, Mary, was 18, and she came home from finishing school and in New York City, and her dad was not doing well. He was a prisoner of war. He had a lot of other illnesses and things of that nature. Well, she came down with some type of fever, some type of respiratory something. The correspondence doesn't tell us what, but she passed away right there with her mom and her dad. Her dad was so grief-stricken at the loss of his daughter, who hadn't even been home that long.
His teenage daughter.
She's only 18, beautiful young woman. And he passed away. So here you have Annie Waters Berry Trousdale living in this house, and within the span of less than 30 days, she's lost not her only surviving teenage daughter and her husband. So she doesn't want to stay there. She locks the house up and moves back home to Nashville with family.
Yeah, it's just a lot of sadness, a lot of death. I mean, it happened everywhere. But I think we're almost up for a break. Let's take us a break, and we'll come back and tell some more ghost stories of Trousdale Place and Miss Sue Burgess.
We're your station, WQKR.
Do you like music by singer-songwriters? How about bluegrass, folk, blues, classic country, early rock and roll, and even classic R&B? Then I invite you to tune into Americana Country, Sundays 1 till 4 p.m. My name is Jay Preston. I'm your host every Sunday. We play a great mix of Americana and roots music from artists like John Prine, Sam Bush, Del McCurry, Delbert McClinton, Bonnie Raitt, James Taylor, Steve Earle, Joni Mitchell, and many, many more. Join me, Jay Preston, Sunday afternoons for Americana Country right here on WQKR.
The Lonesome Lee Bogan Show, previously heard every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock on WQKR, has moved to Fridays. You can hear Lee now talking to music people, talking about songs and songwriting and artists and everything else, and his own career. That's the Lonesome Lee Bogan Show, every Friday morning at 9 o'clock on WQKR, following Good Morning Portland.
Now open in Portland, the new Mexican restaurant, Los Potrillos Mexican Restaurant and Grill, located at 105 North Broadway, open Monday through Thursday from 10:45 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, Friday and Saturday from 10:45 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday from 10:45 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. We offer senior and military discounts. Lunch is at 11 to 3 p.m. We offer some of the best Mexican food in Portland with quesadillas, taco de carnitas, fajitas, nachos, and lots of other wonderful menu items. Gift certificates are available, and we do catering. You can make reservations for birthdays and office parties by calling 615-475-3380. Los Potrillos Mexican Restaurant and Grill, located at 105 North Broadway, here in Portland.
Whether you're on your way to work in the morning and looking to grab a quick breakfast, or lunch break and wanting something good and hot and quick, or just hungry and not sure what you want, the one place you can always find what will work for you is Kirby Stop Market, 905 North Broadway in Portland. They're open 24 hours a day, offer both takeout and Grubhub delivery service, and have the biggest selection of fast food of anyone in the area. Fast food or home-cooked meals, meat in 2 sides for just $6.49. Delicious Godfather's Pizza, 3 for $13.99. Fried chicken, chicken strips, livers and gizzards, hot barbecued and crispy wings, fish, potato wedges, onion rings, the biggest and best selection anywhere and always hot and ready to go. Plus everything else you want or need from a truly convenient convenience store. Kirby Stop Market, 905 North Broadway in Portland. Get what you want when you want it. Pick it up or have it delivered by Grubhub. Kirby Stop Market, 615-323-9098.
We are back with Southern Ghost Stories. Roger the Wraith behind the board and Miss Sue Burgess from Trousdale Place is in studio. So something we talked about during the break, and I wanted Sue to kind of talk about it. So for years, there was an armoire or a trunk or something that was locked, and they finally got a key. Tell me about that.
Okay.
Find.
We in the children's bedroom we have an armoire that belonged in the family. It is a family piece, and at one time it was in the family house across the road where Best Donuts is now. So we couldn't, for the longest kind of time, we did not have a skeleton key that would open the door or the drawer, underneath. And one afternoon, Sumner County historian Ken Thompson sat there in front of that armoire on the floor with a box, like a cigar box full of skeleton keys, because he keeps those, and it's very important because you never know when one might open something you need to open. Fortunately, after a lot of patience, he found the skeleton key that opened the armoire itself and opened the drawer. Well, we had no idea what might be in the drawer, and I want to talk about the drawer first because we pulled the drawer out. There was a scrapbook that had like a plywood wooden cover and a wooden back, and trying to figure out how large it would be. It's pretty large. It's heavy, and it was tied together with leather strips. So it's a scrapbook that the United Daughters of the Confederacy did back in the 1940s, and of course it was beginning. The paper's beginning to deteriorate, so we had to be very careful with it. And we do have it. And going through the pages, and I remember showing it to Alan one day when he was there. And in one of the things that they had saved and they had put in the scrapbook was a marketing brochure from Margaret Mitchell, about her book, Gone with the Wind.
A new book coming soon called Gone with the Wind.
Exactly.
And she signed it.
And she wrote on it to the United Daughters of the Confederacy, to Clark Chapter 13, who is the chapter that met there, and she signed it. So they put that in the scrapbook, and that was quite a find, to find something that actually has Margaret Mitchell's autograph.
Tell them what that's worth. I mean, just top of your head, what do you think that's worth?
I have no idea.
That's amazing.
I just. It's just one of those things. It's a fun find. The other thing that was in that drawer was an even more interesting find, and something that somebody must have known at one time that it existed. I'm sure Julius Trousdale knew. It is called a bivouac banner, and the sons of the Confederate veterans formed bivouacs. That was like their group of retirees, if you will, and they got together, to do what retirees do in a group, and take care of each other and that type thing. Well, they had banners, and they're silk banners, and they named their bivouac after, someone of note. This bivouac banner is the General Donaldson. It's oh shoot, now I can't call his. I was just up there today. Daniel Smith Donaldson bivouac.
From Hazel Path, right? Hendersonville.
Oh no, that would be that's Rock Castle. That's Daniel Smith.
Yeah,
Donaldson,
but I think
Donaldson,
didn't he die from dysentery after they didn't name Fort Donaldson after him?
Yeah,
he owned Hazel Path in Hendersonville.
Yeah, I'm not real. I haven't studied him a whole lot, but anyway, on the front of that bivouac is an oil-painted portrait of him. And so, of course, that was displayed for their, when they had their reunions and when they had their meetings and they had things of that nature. And it was rolled up and stuck in the back of that drawer. Well, interestingly enough, there are several other bivouac banners that are in the Tennessee State Museum. So I've talked to the people at the Tennessee State Museum. They know we have this banner. We're working, to get it preserved. It is very fragile, but until we found it in that drawer, no one other than the Trousdale family, who put it away in that drawer, knew it was there because it had stayed locked for so many years.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Just it's been locked up for what? 50,
Who knows?
60 years. Yeah, that's crazy.
Who knows? Because it would have stayed in. They called it the Peyton House. It would have stayed in the Peyton House or the Peyton Place until the very last one of, Fanny Peyton, as children passed away, and
it's like finding a time capsule or buried treasure or something,
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, that was like a time. Very much so, a time capsule.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the ghost stories. So you talked about the empath, and that was something that was probably, it's not just in Trousdale Place, but pretty much all my crazy adventures. So years ago, when I wrote the first Gallatin book, I kept hearing the Sumner County Library is haunted. So I'll go over and talk to the ladies, and each time, no ghost stories here. So one day, I was about to give up, and this lady, she's an older lady, she told me, hey, look, there's no ghost stories here, but the old library is where the ghost stories are. We hear like a typewriter at night. We hear footsteps, weird things happen there. So I went to the old library, which is now the UT Extension office on Hartsfield Pike, and I walk in, and I look over, and I see this lady, and she makes eye contact with me, immediately looks down and kind of hides her head in her hands. I thought, well, that's kind of rude, and I just kept walking. So I asked her coworker, I said, hey, I'm working on this book about ghost stories in Gallatin, and I heard this place is haunted. Well, she starts giggling and points to the lady who's buried her head in her hands. I walk over there, ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you, working on this book. And she's like, matter of fact, well, we're haunted, but it's not really, she wants to be here. It's not a ghost. It's a spirit, and she's happy. She's friendly. She wants to be here, but it's an older lady with like an older beehive style hairdo, and she stays in the back. So I said, well, that's kind of weird. So I started researching, started digging around, and I found a picture of Miss Nell McDonald, the first Sumner County librarian, and I sent it over to her, and she replied, hey, that's who I see in the back. So I started bringing her on these crazy adventures I go on. And she's legit. Like I've done a lot of research on these buildings, and I'll bring her in. She'll tell me things only I know. So my wife, she's heard stories about her. So one night we're eating at that new, it's called Japan House over by the new Publix. And she walks in, the empath walks in. And my wife, she wants to debunk what she can. She doesn't want to believe everything she hears. So the empath has told me before that she's picked up as a tall man, a tall, lanky man who follows me around and wears a top hat or some kind of large hat. Well, I have a grandfather who was, tall and lanky, and he wore older style hats. I'm not sure if that's who she sees, but she'll me there's an older gentleman who follows me around to check on me. So my wife, she meets her. Hey, it's nice to meet you. Hey, I'm curious. You sensed anything with me? So we're sitting there eating supper, and she said, it's funny you say that. There's a lady in a flowery dress, and she's here. She wants to see if you're okay. So my wife said, oh, well, what's her name? And she just kind of looks at her and studies her face for a second, and she goes, it's Mamaw. And my wife her face just loses all color. So my wife was very close with her grandmother, and she lived with her for a long time when before she passed away, and she called her Mamaw. And that's a unique name for her grandmother, but this stranger walks up and says, hey, your Mamaw's here visiting you. She just, I believe this lady's legit, but that right there just drove it home. So furthermore, the night at Trousdale Place, when Sue and the new leadership took over the house, they had an open house for the community. And they invited me to come, and I invited my empath friend. Well, unbeknownst to me, the empath invited another empath, a lady from the Dominican Republic who I'd never met before. So I walk in the house, the empath walks in, the other empath from the Dominican walks in, she crosses the threshold and drops in a heap right there in the entryway.
Scared me to death.
It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But to make it even crazier, as we're tending to her friend, the empath is staring at the corner of the entryway, and she said, oh, he is just so sorry. He feels awful he did this to you. He wants you to know how sorry he is. So finally, we get her some water. We get the lady from the Dominican up and running again. And I asked the empath, I said, what in the world just happened? She said, well, there's an older white gentleman here at the house, and he was intrigued by my friend. People from the Dominican, they're not white, they're not black. They have a unique dark olive skin complexion that someone in 1840 would be intrigued by. So he took a step closer, or stepped into the entryway as she was walking in, and she passed through him, and the energy just knocked her straight to the ground because she was receptive. So, yeah, you were there. What do you recall about that night?
That pretty much explains it. And interestingly enough, when we were asking for a description of the man that was standing in the back of the hallway, this is the entrance hallway, that we determined that the person that she was describing was William Trousdale. Now, neither one of those ladies knew anything about the people that had lived in their house, much less what their names were or what they may have been wearing or what their purpose may have been there. So that was our first venture. That was like a Friday night or something. It was like spooky stories at Trousdale Place, and Alan was there to help us out with that. But
yeah, and it's I have this picture in studio. I'm about to show Sue. So I do tours around the Gallatin Square. You guys know the Ghost of Gallatin tours. I tell everybody when you walk up to the house, take pictures. I told them to get pictures of Mary's room. Well, they take pictures of the entryway too. And so one night or one afternoon, I'm doing a tour. This is, I guess, in the springtime because it's still light outside.
Right.
But you can see a man's face appear in the window above the door. I mean, could it be the light shining through the trees? Could it be a passing convertible? I don't know, with the sun reflecting off of it. It looks kind of like, to me, Andrew Jackson's looking through the window there. But you're looking at it, Sue, right?
Right. I mean, I see it. I mean, it does. You can see eyes, eyebrow.
And it was taken right where that lady fell, or that she dropped.
Right in that same area. That's that window, that over the double doors. That's an original window. That's original glass. So that's nothing that's been replaced. But it would be difficult to figure out what inside or outside would have reflected that particular shape and that pain. But then there again, who's to say?
Yeah, and a lot of times we get a lot of pictures on the Ghost of Gallatin tour, and a lot of times it's just the way the light hits the old glass.
Right.
But there's sometimes I get something like I've got things at Trousdale Place. I've got things at Rosemont, these old 1800 homes that I can't explain. But I think we're up for our last break, and let's take our break and come back some more and talk some more Trousdale Place ghost stories.
WQKR.
Why choose the Farmers Bank? We've been serving our community since 1912, and we still manage our business locally. This means that when you need banking services or a loan, we don't let a computer or someone thousands of miles away make our decisions. We make decisions locally. We visit with you in person. We shake your hand. We get to know you and your family. The Farmers Bank is a community bank built on trust and quality customer care and service. Visit us at any of our 11 area locations or online at thefarmersbank.net to see the Farmers Bank difference. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Bud Woodall from the Portland Church of Christ, and here's a point to ponder. We have several mockingbirds around our house, and it's always interesting to hear the sounds that they make. Our mockingbirds mimic other birds that we see, wrens and cardinals and blue jays, and yet scientists still don't know exactly why mockingbirds mock, outside of the possibility that it makes the male more attractive to the female. No matter what the reason might be that the mockingbird mocks, it reminds us of God's power and His creation. And it is right and fitting to say with Psalm 104, verse 1, "Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, you are very great. You are clothed with honor and majesty." The mockingbird is special because God made it that way. Points to Ponder has been brought to you by the Portland Church of Christ. We hope you have a wonderful day.
No one told them. No one warned them about the house on Willow Lane.
What is it?
It's the house. It's alive.
Here, Looney.
Have you seen this energy bill?
Ah! This house is robbing us blind!
If your house is an energy thief, TVA and your local power company would like to help make your home more efficient and lower your bills. To learn more, visit EnergyRights.com.
We're CEMC.
Winning just got closer at the Mint Gaming Hall Kentucky Downs. Join us for food, fun, and excitement soon. Hungry? Iron Steakhouse is there for your special night out. Ready to win? Come play one of our 1,000 games. Watch and wager on your team or horse, too. Featuring an event center and all-suite hotel, the Mint Gaming Hall is so close. The exit is in Tennessee. Check out themintgaming.com for details. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Winning just got closer.
All right, we are back with Southern Ghost Stories. I'm the American Haunt Story and Alan Searcy. Now let's throw it back to Sue. She's talking about this staircase that's not there, but kind of is. You're talking about during the break. Can you tell our listeners what about the staircase?
Okay, in the main hallway, at some time during, in between when the family lived there and, when it became a historic site, the staircase was redone. The positioning of it was changed. So it would have been, if you're familiar with houses from that time frame, it would have had what is referred to as, it's like a reverse staircase or a wraparound staircase, where it would have gone up and across the back and then turned back towards the front. So, coming around that way. That staircase was changed. It does not do that anymore. And the reason I bring that up is because at what should have been the center portion of that staircase at the top, you should have been able to stand there and look out of the window that is the center window over the back double doors on the rear of the house, what we call the middle grounds. And somebody should have been able to stand there and look out the window. And a lot of times people that take pictures, or at night especially, they look up and they get a picture, or they get the feeling that there's a woman standing there and looking out the window, and they can see, not just her head and shoulders, but see, the upper portion of her body and everything like that. And you can. But if you turn around and go around to the front of the house and go in the front doors and you walk up that staircase, you realize that flooring that person would have been standing on is a whole lot lower, and you shouldn't be able to see that much of a person standing there.
Yeah. We got a picture a couple of years ago on the tour of like a silhouette on the stairs. Guy said something's at the top of the stairs. Let's take a picture. He took a picture. I sent it to you.
Right.
And like you said, the staircase, he had to be 8-9 foot tall to be appearing like he was in the photo. But when I sent you that picture, you weren't concerned about the 9 foot tall silhouette in the window. you want to know who was holding the curtains in Mary's room, because if you look at the next window pane, there's something holding the window.
Yeah, holding the curtain open and looking out the window. So it's. I can't explain it to you. I've seen the pictures. I've been inside the house. I'm not afraid to be in there. But energy has to go somewhere, or it has to stay somewhere. But also on the at 183 West Main Street, that's where the Sumner County Museum is. Sumner County Museum is behind historic Trousdale Place, if you will. So we have a front lawn, we have middle grounds, and then we have this little strip of land behind the Sumner County Museum. But and Alan may have talked about it before, but I know there's some things that that happened in the Sumner County Museum that that,
because that was originally the property of the Trousdale family,
right? So that's a relatively new building. That building was put there in 1976, but the property and the land underneath it and everything is a whole lot older than that. So
the mannequins upstairs. That's what because I've talked to the volunteers. They'll tell me that they'll come in and they'll check the cameras, and the mannequin upstairs, call her Cinderella, she's turned to the left, and then they'll come in at lunchtime, they check the cameras again, and she is turned to the right. I've been up there in the dark, or when it's really dark, and I've seen her just fall over and no one's around. So the Sumner County Museum's got a lot of fun ghost stories too.
Yeah, and of course, coming up this weekend on October the 1st, that's the first Saturday in October, so we have Square Fest. Trousdale Place will be open from 10 until 2. The Sumner County Museum will be open from 10 until 2. And the Sumner County's, the Sumner County Museum's annual cemetery tour, I think, if I've got my math correct, this is year number 29, that you would be able to meet some Gallatonians in their cemetery tour and learn a little bit more
Gallatonians.
History. Yeah, Gallatonians.
It sounds like a Canadian League football team
or
something.
No. Well, would you prefer Sumner Countyans?
Yeah, I don't know. Or Galatians. That's in the Bible. Is it Gallatonians? I never really thought about it.
I know. Well, that's the way I say it. Somebody else might come up with another word.
Because I grew up in Nashville. I was a Nashvillian, so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but my grandparents are from Carthage, so I guess, are they Carthaginians? I don't know. Sorry, that's a rabbit hole we can go down another day, another show.
I was going to say, I have an educator friend that used to, she's a retired teacher, and she said what we were just doing, she'd tell her class that they were bird walking now, that they'd gotten way off topic.
Yeah, that's what we were doing. We're bird walking over here. But so there was an investigation. I was kind of in and out. Usually I'll talk down in the annex and people will go investigate. Well, there was something where the governor's son, didn't he have a leg that was amputated, or he had a problem in the Civil War, and the SLS camera captured a man with like a crooked leg upstairs? You can speak to that, can't you?
Charles, who is the oldest son, did lose a leg in one of the battles, and some people say Charles is there. Some people say it is Julius. Julius would have walked with a cane. He didn't lose a leg, but he was very crippled up from having been in a prisoner of war camp. But the one thing that I haven't said tonight that I know, and I don't know if Alan knows, but this is a good thing to end on. One of the nights that we were sitting in the West Wing, or the annex, if you will, one of the investigative teams had a music box that had sensors on it, so that if anything got close to it, the music box would come on and play music. Okay, well, we're all sitting at a table, way far away from the door. We had the door open into the breezeway because it was a nice fall night, so we had the door open to take advantage of the cool air. And the music box kept coming on, and then it would go off, and it would come on, and then it would go off. And one of the empaths that was there said, there's a child out there. There's a child out there in the breezeway that is interested in seeing what we're doing in here, but is afraid to come in. So I was there that night. There wasn't anybody in the breezeway. There wasn't anybody close enough to have broken the field that was set up around that music box that would have made it come on.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the breezeway. I did a tour a couple years ago, and a lady told me that she was sensitive at the start of the tour. And we walked through the breezeway there going towards the back. She told me her right arm went numb. And then when she walked to the back part of the house, she got feeling in her arm again. So it's really weird you mentioned that. I'm not sure if I ever told you that story, but yeah.
Yep, and one of the other things is that we've had people go through the house and do tours and feel cold spots.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're ever in Gallatin or you want to take a tour, what's the best way to reach you guys?
Best way is to reach out to us, through our website or our Facebook page. We're not open every day. We're a small group of volunteers. We'd love to have more volunteers. We're working on being open more frequently. We will be open on Halloween for the littles to trick or treat, and we will be open for our Christmas open house. We'll probably do something for Veterans Day, but just reach out to us on Facebook or through our website.
Is it TrousdalePlace.com?
TrousdalePlace.com.
Okay.
Ask us what's going on. We can schedule, private tours. We're working on getting the house open more frequently so that you would just be able to know we're open from this day to this day, this time to this time, and come on in for a tour.
Yeah, and like I said, the Ghost of Gallatin Haunted Tour, we've been doing those since 2019. Every tour we go to the house and take pictures, walk around back, and some of the weirdest, wildest pictures I get on the tour are at Trousdale Place. I always shoot them over to Sue. She gets tickled at me. But yeah, it's Ghost of Gallatin Haunted Tour is going on right now. I told you I got appearances. Go to Southern Ghost Stories on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. Alan Searcy, I'm on there. I'm posting where I'm going to be. I've got a lot of stuff coming up. Square Fest in Gallatin, Tennessee this weekend. I'll be at the Goatman Festival in Louisville next weekend, the 11th and 12th. The following weekend, I'll be in Lexington, Kentucky for Scarefest. And then the last Saturday before Halloween, I'll be at Franklin Pumpkin Fest. I believe it's the 24th. Franklin, Tennessee, not Franklin, Kentucky. Up here. I grew up in Nashville, so I think Franklin, Tennessee. Folks in Gallatin, Sumner County, think Franklin, Kentucky. So I always got to be specific with that. But yeah, check me out on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Got new books out. Hex just dropped about the Voodoo Doctor in Knoxville. But yeah, if you're listening, if you find us on iTunes where you listen to the podcast, subscribe, leave a review, give us some feedback. We love doing this, and October is prime time. So I think that's all the time we got for today, and we'll see you next week.
The Q, WQKR Portland, your radio station.